That's me.
How is it you always have something funny to say?
Because I'm a comedian.
Would you like to come up and teach the class?
Yeah, I can do that.
Very well, come on up. Instruct us. And what will be the basis of your lecture?
What?
What are you going to talk about?
Tell you if you let me talk, sure. Okay. All right, does anybody know what the name of this place is?
That's Africa. I know that.
That's right, that's Africa. But did you know that Africa is the place where the body of the first man was found? My daddy says that makes it a place where all people originated from. That means everybody's really from Africa. Everybody. All y'all. Everybody.
I'm from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia.
Like it or not, you're from Africa.
I'm from Africa. You from Africa. You African booty scratcher.
That's a question that I ask myself, because I come through the phase of being called black, being called, where we took pride in being called African American. That was after being called Negro, of course, and I guess you didn't give Negro as a selection. But to be honest with you, I would prefer colored, and wonder what was wrong with colored, because if you look at a white man, blonde hair, blue eyes, you know, white woman, ruby red lips, peaches and cream complexion. You know, that would make all of us colored. Okay, but for some reason they seem to just put that connotation on a black person. You know, so taking a choice of those, I would prefer black, although I know now, through experience, through life experience, that I'm not black. Okay, I've always had a thing about wanting to be blacker, you know, not being black enough. Being a light-skinned black male, I always felt that my blood was contaminated or diluted, you know, because I take pride in my black heritage. I take pride in the fact of where we all originated from, and where we, you know, as they say, the dark continent. I could go to the dark continent and pass for white, you know, so if you were to give me a preference, I would say black.
I think I'm African American.
Okay, and why do you have that view?
I think I'm African American because I have African in me, but I was born in America, so I just put it together and I'm African American. If I was born in Africa, I feel I would be completely African, not denying my roots on that side, but my blood is a little bit cut.
Alright, okay. What you got?
I feel I'm an African American.
Okay. I mean, could you kind of elaborate on?
Pretty much for the same reasons. I wasn't born in Africa. I know that I have African ancestors, but I don't know who they are. Don't know the history about them. I was born in America, so use that title African American. I just know I got some type of African in me. I don't know what.
Okay. Okay. Anyone?
Well, I consider myself to be black.
Okay. And why do you?
And the reason why is because, you know, I don't know all of my roots, but I'm not from Africa. I mean, Africa is a cool place. God bless Africa. But, you know, my 3 greats down the line is Irish. And his wife is a Cherokee. They're not from Africa. So there's no way that I could be from Africa. Okay. So I'm black. It's just a simple fact that our parents married people with dark skin to make us have dark skin.
Neither. As of right now, I'm at a point in my life where I like to be referred to as Nigerian American. I don't know, when I was younger, growing up in elementary school and middle school, African American was a term I identified with because I wasn't really in touch with my background. I didn't really know, I didn't really want to know, I didn't really care. So after actually going to Nigeria and seeing where my parents are from, I want to identify with that because I'm proud of where I come from. And I don't want to be called just African because that's just a little bit too general. Like, there's so many countries in Africa, so I just want it to be specific.
Okay. I prefer, in fact, it's not even just a question of preference. I don't recognize the term African American as being a logical or historically accurate term for black people in the United States, or for black people, and that relates to the other national identity terms that black people take on outside of the continent, even in the continent. I don't believe there's such thing as a Afro-Caribbean or a Jamaican or Black Brit or Nigerian or what have you. The fact of the matter is we all African. And the reason why I say that is a couple of pieces that have to be understood. First of all, the national identities, if we start from where we are and work our way backwards, the national identities that we have come to be known as, in large measure accepted, were forced on us. There was no common agreement that we would be considered African Americans by black people in America. The fact of the matter is, all of the terms that we have been used to identify us as a group have been created by what could be termed the ruling class or the state, right? By society outside our own. So I consider myself an African. I consider all black people that can trace their lineage to Africa to be African. Okay. Okay.
I would prefer to be called black because here in America, so it's only two races. So because I don't see white being called white Americans, so I don't see the reason why they don't call them white Americans. Why they single us African Americans? So we are just blacks. Because there are only two races in America, black and white. So even though they keep saying they don't have Spanish American, so it's only the country that you come from, that's where they call you, maybe you are Brazilian Americans or maybe German Americans or whatever. But seeing we are only blacks, so I think the one common name that we should be given should be our blacks. That's the thing that I prefer most.
Honestly, it really don't matter to me, like either African or African American. The reason I say it don't matter because I know my bloodline comes straight from Africa, but also I know I was born in America. So African American, just like any other race, they come from Europe. So
Black.
Okay, why?
Because I'm not from Africa and I didn't come to America from Africa. I originated in America.
Okay.
You know, I'm not just African American. I got other things mixed with me. But
Okay.
I'm dominant black.
Okay, would you like get offended if somebody referred to you as African?
Yeah, I'm not African.
Okay. What do you associate Africa with though? Like what?
They were my ancestors originated, but them not all my ancestors. You know, them some of my ancestors.
Okay, okay. Anybody else got something else you can add to that?
I consider myself as black because African is like you have to be original from Africa. You can't just call somebody African.
Okay.
Like you know how on test they be like Native American, African. Like they should have black on there too.
American or black, but definitely when it comes to be called African, I'm not African.
Okay. So now,
I may be African American, I may be black, but I'm not African.
okay, so I mean you're not Africans.
Maybe my ancestors, most likely. But all I know is that I have been born in America.
Okay.
And that I am black and I'm African American.
Okay.
It actually depends. And I say that because sometimes, I don't want to sound like a jerk when I say this, but like, you know, sometimes when I feel there's like a difference between the two, I obviously prefer to be called African because, you know, like when there's black people that are attracting negative attention to them for whatever reason, obviously I don't want to be associated with that negative energy. So, you know, if like, even if they were in my class, I'd probably be like, you know what, they're not the cool ones, you know, or they're, I shouldn't say cool, but like, no, they're not the normal ones, they're like, you know, the weird ones. Or not saying that black people are weird or anything, but I'm just trying to give an example. And so, you know, so sometimes I'd be like, no, you see, there's a difference between them and myself. So I guess it really depends. Like, I mean, if it's just white people talking about, like, you know, like me, they can call me black or whatever. But it's only whenever there's a negative stigmatism applied, I like to separate myself.
Man, it's kind of, let me try to get to the point first, man. It's kind of really hard when you're doing an application, man, because you're going to think, like, you know, if you do African American, you know what I mean, there's different, like, you know what I mean, a preference that, you know, white America sees, you know what I mean, as African Americans, man. You might not get the job, or you might not, you know, succeed on to the next level, man. So sometimes, I'm not going to lie, man, I circle other, man, you know. But it doesn't really matter to me what I'm called, you know. I mean, my skin color could be black, but, you know, I was born in Africa, man, you know what I mean. But I've grown up as an American for almost, like, you know, 14 years now, so, you know.
We don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
To be honest, not all the time. For the most part, not exactly. Like, I can't seem to always identify with just everyone of African descent because I feel like I'm different in some kind of way. Like, I don't know exactly why, but I just feel like, okay, you have your culture, I have my culture. Like, we're not, even though our backgrounds, we all originated from the same place, I feel like over the years we've grown apart so much that I can't even, like, always identify with you. And it hurts, but it's just how I feel.
Generally, if a person is obviously of African descent, even if, you know, they so-called mixed, and one of their immediate parents or you know, in recent generations were black, and they claim that ancestry, then yeah, I relate to any of them. It doesn't matter where you're from. You could be from the Congo or Chicago. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I have a thing with all of mankind being of African descent. You know, it's easy for us to, you know, we fall into that state of mind where the white man convinced us or told us in some derogatory way, go back to Africa. I don't know where he think he originated from. You know, I don't know why that would be just a plain ticket that I would be in line for. You know, as if he was to trace his roots, I guess he would actually think that, oh, I originated out of Europe. All of mankind originated out of the continent of Africa. You know, and it takes someone, you know, it takes a less intelligent person to instruct me just because I'm black. Go back to Africa. Okay, that right off shows me where his mind is at, and I'm not going to even argue with him. I'm not going to try to enlighten him.
I mean, you know, sometimes you kind of have these conversations with other Africans, like, you know, if there's really a difference. And so I guess in that respect, sometimes, you know, I identify with them and, like, there's a difference between being African, like, between just being black and African American. So then I guess, like, sometimes I do share some, like, I guess, sense of kinfolk with them.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because it is my people. Yeah. Just like, I see a lot of people who come straight from Africa. Well, sometimes you can't even recognize if they come straight from Africa or not, and until they start speaking and then they talk. So when I talk to them, I'm like, "Oh, where you from, man?" And they tell me where they originally from. They from Ghana or Senegal, something like that. But like I said, they look. We all the same. They look just like me. Look just like you. So yeah, I identify with them a lot, man.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. You know, because we all from one place. You know. Black people are all the way back, all the way in the 1800s, you know, to stay in Africa, you know. We just came to the United States, America, so they want us to, you know, they want to divide us, you know. Some say they're African Americans, some say we're straight from Africa, you know. That's what they try to do, just break us up, divide us. I said, I look at every black, you know, skin, I look at them as African, you know. We're all from one continent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, basically, man, when we first came to, you know, America and stuff, and we was told, you know what I mean, like, these people are dangerous and everything, you know, the African American is a dangerous person and this and that. And we took that in, man, you know what I mean? And then after a while, man, once we, you know, started going to school and stuff and started seeing the history and all the stuff, you know what I mean, African Americans went through, man, you know what I mean, with the you know, black and white thing, you know, back in the 60s, you know, Martin Luther King and stuff, you know, the segregation. So, and then it makes you feel like sympathy, man, for these people, you know what I mean? And then you make friends, you know what I mean? And then all the other stuff, you know what I mean, when you first came, goes away, you know? And it makes everything easy, man, you know? I got a lot of African-American friends now, and, you know, everything's all good.
Yeah, I do identify with myself with black people, but the only thing that it looks like there are some differences between people who came recently from Africa and those blacks that have been here for centuries of years, or with their grandparents came as a slave, and those who just came from Africa, because like it look like people, they stereotype themselves. Like the black that were here, they do see African like people uncivilized, so they see themselves as they are more civilized. Like you're trying to speak English, if you see a black, I think somebody would pretend that they don't understand your English, and you're speaking to a white person, so they will understand what you're saying, but they will keep asking you what, like they don't hear what you're saying. So I think that make a lot of Africans who just came from Africa, so they have like those negative feeling toward the black that were here, because it looked like they thought maybe the black that were here trying to be more superior than them. So I think, but for me, I do identify myself to anybody. So as long as anybody can talk to me, I do have a couple of friends, so I identify myself as black. That's my heritage. So I think I do identify myself as black.
Speak like and they don't. My friend is African. They don't speak like that.
They really don't.
They don't. Like I got an African in my job.
Black.
I got my African in the job. Like they don't say all their words. Like they be like, what's that? Let's say I take the class. Sometimes they went to the store. They be like, I store went. They don't say like I went to the store. I store went. They don't say the whole sentence.
What do they say? What do you hear? I mean, African people say about you, like bad things that you hear, like Africans say.
They say we ghetto. Americans. They say we bad people. Yeah. I'm thinking they kind of racist towards us, for real. Because my African friend, her mama, she don't like ghetto black people. She said she think every black person is ghetto.
Yeah, they watch TV and see what the black people on TV do.
Yeah.
And they put it on us. But it's not, everybody's not like that.
Right.
So, yeah, they kind of be biased sometimes.
They think we're lazy. This is their perception. They think we're lazy. They think that we've been over this whole time not doing nothing, just being lazy, playing around, just gangbangers and just killing each other and stuff like that.
Depends on, you know, where are you talking about, you know, and whom you talking about. There's all kind of there's all kind of crazy notions about our people that we hold, that we have accepted and that we propagate. There's still to this day the notion that Africa is this uncivilized, barbarous place, that African people generally live in squalor, that African people, that African, in terms of continent, that political institutions are overwhelmingly corrupt. And that's just, you know, how African people in the United States see African people on the continent. When you talk to, in my experience with the African people from the Caribbean, African people there are taught or considered for one reason or the other that African people in the United States are lazy and shiftless, lascivious, that we are promiscuous as a rule. Whereas we taught here that people from the Caribbean always smoke weed, are dirty and these kinds of things. And so all of these things go on. And then we had this self-image, these stereotypical self-image where niggas ain't. Niggas and flies, the more I see niggas, how I despise, the more I see niggas, the more I like flies. That's something we say, you know, about ourselves and these kinds of things. And you can find that everywhere. So you have this internal self-image for any particular subgroup of the African people worldwide, and then you have this external image, and then you have this collective image where we basically, in certain kind of ways, still hold on to these social notions that black people just ain't. You know what I'm saying? And anytime a problem arises in the black community, it could be the same problem that you see in any other community, right? But anytime it arises in the black community, what do we say? Black people, niggas ain't shit. You know what I mean? So it's a certain kind of cultural self-hatred that still exists that I think would help to explain those stereotypes.
Okay, that's a good question, because I feel like some people might not exactly feel comfortable to share things like that with me because I identify so closely with them. But like for the most part, I feel like people say, okay, that sometimes Africans that come straight over, they look funny or they talk different or they don't look normal, or it's mainly physical things that I hear about because, I don't know, maybe Africans look physically different for whatever reason or talk different, but not necessarily education-wise, because I have heard, I don't know, people say weird things sometimes. I have once had somebody tell me that, oh, you think you're better than me because you're African, or you think you're smarter than me because you're African. I didn't say that. I'm just like, I don't know. People just think that, okay, Africans, like, they're willing to go an extra mile or something because they're coming straight from Africa, or they have to be, like, really ambitious or really smart to, like, what am I saying? To, like, just to look better or to feel better because they're inferior or something like that. So it's mainly physical characteristics that I hear people complain about.
Okay. They don't like African Americans. They think they're traitors.
Yep, traitors, and we're the fake. We're fake.
We're fake. We're considered fake, not real.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with that.
You agree with that? Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, what are they saying about us though?
What is he saying about us?
Like, what do you hear that African people say about us, like in America? Like, what are stereotypes?
Yeah, they don't like us because they think that we're like Uncle Toms. Like we're not real Africans. Well, I'm not a real African, but they think that I think that I'm a real African, but I'm not, and I don't think that. But they don't know me, so that's why they think that about me.
Okay. Do y'all feel that like y'all got a connection with like people of African descent? Do you feel like
they look at me in a whole different vibe? I could feel it. I could feel that. So I mean, nothing against them, but I mean, they're just not really too receptive to us. I mean, the encounters I've had with Africans.
I mean, what do you think? What's the solution that you think that need to be done to possibly kind of connect us and bring us together? Like, Because I mean, we all, I mean, being of African descent, I mean, it's definitely a division.
Right.
But would you like to know them, or
Yeah, I
I
would
mean?
love to know them.
I would like to know Africans just like I like to know any other race of people.
So it's not.
Because I'm not African.
Okay.
But they don't know that I'm not African.
Right.
So I would like to know them just like I like to know Jamaicans, Filipinos, the same way.
I think
they need to get to know me. They need to stop thinking that all black people think that they're from Africa, because all black people don't think that. I mean, Africa is a cool place. I love to visit there. I love to learn about their heritage. But I don't know. I just think that they think that because we have black skin that we think that we're from Africa and we're privileged over them. Okay. Well, I'm one person who's not from Africa.
Okay. Okay.
Just like dangerous people, man. They always got guns on them, to live in the hood. They'll come see you, man, if you got a problem with them, or, they have their own rules, man, they live by, so, so it's kind of, that's all the stuff I heard, man, no snitching, all that applies, keeping it real.
When I was here, I heard all these things about Africa. Oh, everybody has AIDS, everybody is like poor, and people don't wear decent clothes and stuff like that. And like my friends in high school were like telling me, no, don't get AIDS, or don't live in a hut, and just weird stuff. So when I actually got over there, it was not what I was expecting. It was different, but it wasn't as bad as I feel people portray it to be as. But when I did get over there, there are certain stereotypes that people believe about African Americans or people of African ancestry who live in the United States. And I think it mainly comes from the older generations. I think younger generations are a little bit more westernized. They're a little bit more understanding. A lot of them travel here and see it for themselves. But older generations, a lot of people will be like, oh, African Americans, they're lazy, or they don't want to work hard. They want things handed to them, or they have low standards. They're not hardworking. Just all kinds of weird things that people believe, and I'm not quite sure where this comes from, but I've noticed that it's mainly with older people, not necessarily with younger generations.
I think when I was in Africa, the person that I was told that blacks, they are the one committing crime in America. So that's one of the stereotypes that was given by people who go down there, who go to Africa. And predominantly people who go to Africa are white. And they are the one who, when you make friends with them, when you ask about how, I heard that there are black people in America, so how they look like. And then the person that they will tell you that they're the bad people in America, they're the one who do crime, they do drugs. So when you go there, so don't ever make friends with them. And that's the reason why some people, when they come here, they don't want to, because they still have that sense of feeling that, and the thing that they see in TV and how black are being portrayed in the U.S. media. So that some people will still hold into that feeling of saying that black. So, and in some other way, black also, they do have a stereotype about African who just came from Africa. For example, I was told one time that there's a term that they use, uppity, like they say, when I ask about that term, they say like somebody who pretend. They say that you pretend to be white and you do things that white people do, so they will call you like uppity. But I don't know what it means, but somebody told me when I was in Des Moines, so they're telling her that you guys pretend to be white, you do the thing that white people do. So that's the one stereotype that I was told by a black African American that was here. And then somebody asked me, how do you guys buy expensive cars and you guys just came from Africa, where you guys don't have money, you don't have food to eat, and when you come here it's only 1 year and then you buy an expensive car, you go to your apartment or your house, so there's a lot of stuff that we don't have, the government is giving you money.
Okay, this is big. Easily the biggest one is laziness. Okay. They think that I'll just differentiate blacks than African Americans. Blacks, they think blacks are really lazy. They think they're, I guess, prone to these habits, and then that makes them, party kind of like party excessively, and then like gang violence and stuff like that. I think that's like the overarching stereotype amongst the African American communities about blacks.
Okay. They do nothing. They just jungle. They be in the jungle. Sweet. If you call a person that's born here African or African American, they be like, "Man, I ain't African American. I'm black. I don't be hanging on trees and eating bananas and
okay, well, it's according on who you're listening to for the stereotypes. We stereotype ourselves. As far as me thinking that I don't want to go into the hood because of those gangster niggas, as if I could go to another country, and to think that gangster just come up out of the hood. Okay, I can go to the hood in Jamaica, Barbados. I could go to the hood in Cameroon or Qatar, anywhere, and find where people are stereotyped, because a lot of them see American programs and think that that's the way we are. They think that that's just us. This is our style. This is our fashion. That's simply because the TV portrays us, instead of portraying us as positive black males or somebody that's really got something on the ball, they portray us as these gangster dope dealers. All we want is a bunch of chains around our neck, car 24s on, Vols on. They got it to where, and it's a shame that black people in other countries actually think that they're being American to duplicate these styles, to just pick them up as if, if they've never seen anything more than what Hollywood has given them, then they don't know that they can come and talk to us and even get an intelligent conversation. You hear some Africans barely speaking English, little dog. Okay, they done picked up the slang and really go out of their way to be more gangster or more thuggish than we would ever want to be. It's why we trying to move away from it. They picking it up as a style, as an American style. I'm being like American. The pants hanging off their behind, the too big clothes, just everything. And like it's a shame, because you look at some white people, and although white folks in America is starting to even copy that style, you look at the sophisticated businessman who's trying to run the world and do things in the world. Okay, he's not following them styles. He's making money off of those styles. He's getting paid. If he can take you to the gutter, he gets your money and gets a chance to live in fine houses, buy fancy things, fly around the world. He makes a business out of our lack of knowledge. And we seem to think that it's hip to be like this. No, it pays him for us to be like that.
You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? What did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
Colonialism had a great deal in that, because when somebody comes into your country and they they go in there with the authority to have the right to strip you of your natural resources without you getting anything in return or without your consent. It makes you feel less of a person or less of a human being. So I think that colonialism had a big part in like demeaning Africans, and it just makes you feel like less of a person, and it just makes you have lower self-esteem, like, oh, you're better than me, so it's okay for you to do this. And it kind of gets embedded into your mind that, okay, they're better than me, that that's why they did this to me, and I'm not worthy, or all kinds of things start to develop because of that dehumanization. But I think I kind of feel like over the years, like a lot of those mentalities haven't gone away. Like they're still here, and we can still see and feel them, like when we go on with our daily lives and to work and things like that.
But it has a crazy effect, man, because it's just like a big loss, man. You don't know a part of yourself that you're trying to find, man. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, like, your greats, you know what I mean, your great, you know, grandparents, or, you know what I mean, all the way back, man. It's like, you know, you just know the part of America. That's the only part you know, man.
It's like, you know, you're forgetting your language.
It's like a big dim.
You're forgetting where you come from, all your culture, you know. Just getting, you know, becoming Americanized, you know.
Yeah, it's like a family, man. They tell us, you know what I mean, like, not to lose our language and
religion.
I would say colonialists, they had created that system that divided us, that keep us apart, because they are the one who set up these kind of rules. They are the one who divided, even in Africa, not even here in America where we have only blacks. In Africa, they were the one who set up all those barriers, saying like some tribes are superior than others. So I think it had a negative effect, because if the European did not come with that colonialism, so African, I think they would be less violent like we have now in Africa. I think all this kind of violence that we have now in Africa and in some parts, these are being created by the white people or these European colonialists, because if they did not create that, like for example, I'll give you in case of Rwanda, in case of Rwanda genocide, that genocide was perpetrated by the white, because they're telling one tribe, the Tutsi and Hutu, so they are telling the other one to be more superior than the other one, and that's the reason why even that, because they were one, they are the same people, but since British, Belgium, when they divided them and trying to crown others to be more superior, I think that's the problem, that we have those kind of things. And today, African Americans are being marginalized, because if they were not brought here, so there will be no slavery. Slavery has a long-term effects on African Americans, and that's why African Americans are still struggling to adjust themselves into the main core of the society, because that affects, they don't own, like, they have worked for free, and when their parents, like the young generation that have come, so the wealth that they never had a wealth that was built by their great-great-parents, then they can pass it along. So that's why many people live in poverty here in the United States, because that colonialists that transport slaves to America, it's because those black now, they still have that effect of slavery on them, because their parents work free. Their great-grandparents did not own land or did not build wealth that they should pass on to the next generation like white people do. White people, they have that wealth now, because compared to African Americans, because their great-grandparents generate wealth that they can pass on to their grandchildren, and then the grandchildren can pass it on. But in African American society, that thing is lacking.
Right. Okay.
It's clear, man. At least academically, it's clear what the effects are. Hell, even commonly, it's clear in certain kind of ways. I mean, the average black person knows that slavery in the United States and in other places is responsible for a lot of the social ills that we face. A lot of people now have, as a result of all of the political and social work that has been done by our people for our people over the course of history, particularly here lately with the Black Revolution of the 60s that happened all over the African diaspora, the Black Power movement, Civil Rights movement, so on and so forth. People have become generally conscious of a lot of different things that before now there wasn't a very highly accepted consciousness of. And so you can talk to any African on the street and they'll be able to identify that slavery has had a significant impact on how we live in general to this day. But in my view, colonialism, here's the thing about colonialism has to be understood. Colonialism has never ended. I know people, when people hear me say that, they think, oh, here's another conspiracy theorist, enough some historical revisionist. Colonialism ended in Africa in the 1960s. There's never been colonialism with black people in the United States and these kinds of things. But all of that stuff is completely false. First of all, we understand, and we, some of us understand, and the rest of us have to be one to the understanding that while direct control of our political, economic, and social apparatuses no longer exists in the way it used to in the 1800s, it has advanced itself. It didn't disappear. It didn't just simply change. It advanced itself, transformed itself into a more advanced form of colonial domination, which we term neo-colonialism or new colonialism, which basically allows for people to have a semblance of independence while still maintaining control. All right? So colonialism has never ended. There's also a such thing as domestic colonialism, which is traditional colonialism in reverse. Traditional colonialism, there's a mother country, right, or what more accurately, a colonizing country that goes out and seizes land and the people own that land for its benefit. Whereas domestic colonialism sees the colonizing country go out and seize people and bring them to their land and have them work as subjected people, as subjects of the colonizing country on various levels with various levels of integration. And without getting into all of the details, the fact of the matter is colonialism still exists. But that being the case, the legacy of colonialism is precisely what we talked about up till now. It has effectively neutralized a good majority of the social and political and economic bonds that we had prior to colonial penetration of Africa and the theft of African people and resources from Africa. And as a result, forced us to become this dysfunctional group of people that is dispersed all over the world, and as a result are weakened as a people. And as a result of that weakness, are continually in this cycle of exploitation and oppression. A lot of it, a good portion of it is self-perpetuating. But the fact of the matter is, colonial control or neo-colonial control of African people in land and resources has created what we see today as the black condition, which generally, wherever you go, black people are at the bottom of society. Economically, we're the poorest, we're the least educated on average, we have the highest incarcerated, we have the highest incidences of drug addiction and abuse, we are most likely to be brutalized by the police, so on and so forth. All the bad, terrible things you could think about that happen to people happens to us by and large.
The main thing that it had on us was trying, instead of taking pride in what we had and the things that we did, we wanted to inseminate, we wanted to become a part of what oppressed us. We wanted to join a board, like if you had looked at a lot of African cultures, okay, we didn't have property rights. Everybody in the village owned the village. You couldn't say, that's my tree, get off of my grass. It was a whole thing. We all owned Mother Earth. It was our part of Mother Earth. Colonialism taught us property rights. Okay, I can actually be the first, so although that never applied to us. See, we couldn't come here and be first on the land and say that we here, it's ours. Okay, we would die. Okay, they would kill us in a minute. You don't own nothing. Okay, but now they can come here with a piece of paper that's really non-existent and say this is my bill of ownership. Okay, if we were never in line to get that bill of ownership, that a lot of those things never applied to us, and we went out our way to become part of a system that did not want us, did not include us. And I look at what it has done to us today. You know, like we fought to send our kids to white folks' school when white folks hated us. Okay, what other race of people fought to turn their kids over to their enemies? You know, I mean, if you think about that right now, if I know you don't like me, you hate me, you think of me as an animal, I'm not finna give you my kids to educate and just turn them over to you. You know, we fought for the right to sit in restaurants and didn't even like the food. We didn't like the food. You know, we liked it, Mama's They didn't sell chitlins. They didn't sell hog maws. They didn't even sell soul food. But took beatings to sit at just to say we can sit down with white. Okay, well, I'm not considering that to be a lot of success. When I looked at the black restaurants that went out of business, they actually didn't have no business. Once we could go to the white man's restaurants, the white man's hotel, which people don't understand, we had black hotels, we had black restaurants. Once we won that right to go, white folks didn't fight to come to our hotels, okay? Although they would use us as servants and know we cleaned the rooms better, know that we cleaned the dishes better, they didn't fight to come to our hotels. It's like we fought for a lot of the wrong things, and that to me is an effect of being colonized. That's an effect of being brought over and being introduced to a system that did not apply to us, and we fought to get included in a system that did not want us in the first place.
New bridges must be built because in the minds of the majority of our people today, Africa is too far away. So the only way you and I can point them in that direction is build new bridges. We have to have the type of understanding of Africa and the type of understanding of our people here in order to build a bridge, a contact, a line of communication between the two. And once the lines of communication have been established and our African brothers can stretch forth their hands and reach us, and we can stretch forth our hands and reach them, why there's nothing that this blue-eyed man in this country will be able to do to you and me successfully from that day onward.
First thing is, man, actually getting to know each other, man, sitting down, you know what I mean, and having like some type of, you know, like picnic or something like that, you know. And I think the first thing is, man, getting to know everybody, man.
Bring everybody around, you know.
Because that's the first
make
basis.
a speech, make everybody feel comfortable, you know.
Everybody loves food, man, so just got everybody, you know. We Africans love food, you know. Especially the mangoes, man. Yeah. That's a little inside joke, but yeah, we can just get everybody together, man. You know what I mean? The people you know and the people I know just come together, man, and just talk, you know what I mean? And I think that's basically it, man. Communication is like the best key, man. You know?
Okay. What you doing right now? This right here, this documentary right here. You don't see documentaries. I haven't seen a documentary about the separation of black people, African people. I haven't seen that, no documentary like that. So this right here, I feel like it's a step to for us to getting closer, man, because we need more stuff like this. Not only just this documentary, but we need something in the community where to let people know, you know, invite us all in, you know, and let them know, man, this is where you come from. We need more people to go to schools and put it in the schools, and started from early childhood to me. Elementary school, all the way to middle school to high school. We need that in the schools, not only in the inner city, but in the suburbs too, because you have a lot of black people who's moving to the suburbs, you have someone who's born there in the suburbs and don't even know where they come from. They think they're just black. They just was just here, their bloodline's here. No, your bloodline's from Africa. If you dark like me or darker than me, your bloodline straight from Africa. So we need that be pushed in the schools. We need having community centers. We need more black people whose leaders to step up and let them know this, man. Because like I said, it's a big effect everywhere, man. In the hood, because you have, like I said, you have black people who's going against each other from their skin color. If you have some, if you darker than me, I used to get in fights because I was lighter than a darker person. You know what I'm saying? And that comes from slavery. You know what I'm saying? And that comes straight from slavery. And I mean, it's just a negative effect, man. With a lot of us as black people, we need to know where we come from. We need to know that we all the same. Our bloodline comes straight from Africa. We need to know that we are Africans, but we was born in America.
I feel like a lot of it has to do with us as individuals, and a lot of it has to do with our education. Because I think that at a very young age, people of African descent are told, not directly but indirectly, that they're inferior, or identifying with Africa as bad because Africa is so negative. Everybody's poor, everybody has AIDS. So I feel like if our kids can be somehow taught in school that African ancestry didn't start with slavery, that there was something before slavery that was actually positive, that maybe people will have more of a sense of pride that, oh, that's where I originated from before all these bad things started to happen. And I also feel like not only education in elementary school, but even education in college as well. If people could be required to take certain courses or required to do some kind of research, because we learn about American history all day, every day. Like, let's learn something about where we came from. Let's do some research. Let's go there. Maybe that might not be very affordable, but let's do some kind of research. Let's have these courses required so that people are required to learn this, and that it's just not something floating in the air. And I feel like the media has a lot to do with it too. Maybe us as individuals can't control the media, but I mean, if somebody could just step up and be like, I don't know, show something on TV or on to the mass media that, hey, this is not how every single part of Africa is portrayed. All we see is the National Geographic. We see lions, tigers, elephants walking around. Like, that's how it is in Africa. I was in Africa for 5 years. I didn't see not one lion, tiger, or elephant. Like, I don't know. I just feel like if we could have some kind of education in our elementary schools, and if parents could kind of educate themselves, if every person as an individual could like go out of their way, I mean, just to do some kind of research and to look at their background as an individual, I feel like you can definitely find something you can identify with, whether it's the accomplishments of your ancestors, or I mean, how far they've come, or the language. I'm sure there's something that everybody can identify with. And if you just look back, just do some kind of research, I'm sure you can find something you can relate to so that you won't feel so divided with the people sitting right next to you.
That's a hard question, but I think the solution that we have to do is that we have to learn the history. When we learn the history, so that will make us to appreciate or to accept the fact that we are all blacks or we are all Africans. So when you have an African heritage, you could not reject your cultural roots. Like, I will give an example. Many white people, they are white. They were born here. Their parents were born here. Only their great-great-great-great-parents migrate to the United States, maybe. And you will see people still call themselves that I'm Irish. I have an Irish roots. So why, we blacks, why do we deny, or people who came here, why do they want to deny their culture or their ancestral roots? So I think people have to learn the history, and they have to accept the fact that we all share the same cultural roots. We are blacks. And when we learn the history, I think people need to focus on learning things, new things, then they have to teach the young generation that our culture, we are black, even if we've been born here, we are in America. So we still have that African roots, and that's the reason why they are called African Americans. No matter where you come from, as long as you are blacks, when you're filling an employment application form, the one thing that you will check, so you will check black African Americans. Doesn't matter where you come from. Even those who came from Haiti, there's no place that you will check you saying that Haiti American. No, they are all African Americans. So they have to accept the fact that we are all blacks.
If you can impact the economic production that people participate in, and if you can impact or you can impact the institutions that drive society, you can change the way the society views each other. As it relates to us, what we have to do is we have to openly engage these notions that people have in their heads about who we are. It really is, when you put it on the ground, it's really a very simple answer. Execution is a little bit more difficult, but it's a simple answer. Here's the thing too. These ideas weren't developed overnight. The friction between domestically born Africans in the United States and Africans born outside the United States didn't happen overnight, so they're not going to be cleared up overnight. But there has to be this institutional, there has to be this theoretical challenge. Look, they black. If they black, they with us, right? But then that also has to be related in practice, right? And this has to happen all over the diaspora, right? So on the ground, when we find ourselves in positions of authority and influence, we have to demonstrate that idea in the real world.
I think the number one thing is to give our kids the truth. Whether it fit, you know, now you got to understand, sometimes truth don't sell. Sometimes if you're looking for glory in Hollywood, then you got to distort truth and make it exciting. You know, sometimes truth is real sad. Sometimes truth is horrible. But if you tell that story, which we have to be educated and have the proper education. We don't need his story no more. See, his story, that's what they call history. That's his story. That's the way he saw it. Okay, and that's almost like me telling somebody, a white person telling me today, well, it's not as bad as it used to be. Okay, well, that's for you. That's for you to say that. Okay, but me who's suffering this every day, okay, you're not even interested in how I feel. You even trying to provide my answers. You don't say, is it as bad as it was a few years? No, you stand up and say, just because you got some black friends, it's not as bad as it used to be. That's because you got some black friends, okay? And it's just like what young brothers need to do, young sisters need to do. We need to deal with truth. If it takes digging into them books and finding a story that don't nobody want to tell, if it's the truth, we got to tell it, because that's the only, it's almost like being lost. And you can be lost right here in your house. You can be lost right here in your city. If you don't know where you've been, there is nowhere in the world that you could know where you're going. And if I can lie and deceive you and tell you, yeah, well, you've been down on 39th and Truths. You've been down on 39th and Pride. If you don't admit that you've never been there, then I can put you in the car and we can ride right past 39th Truth. If there's no street sign there, you don't know if you done been there or not. But if you're dealing with a person that can fool you and trick you into, like, okay, I'm going to tell you where you've been. No, you got to deal with where we've been through the history of our people. And everybody didn't tell the same story. Certain people in charge kept up the truth hidden from us. And it's hidden unto this day. We don't want to uncover it. We don't want to tell the truth about it. And we steady think we headed somewhere. You cannot know where you're going until you know where you've been. And that's through the jobs or the mistakes or an advancement of your ancestors. If you don't know what your ancestors did, if you don't know what your mother and your father did, if you can't benefit from their mistakes, you ain't going nowhere. You lost. Plain and simple, you just lost. Now, you can function as if you're not lost. You can think the world of yourself, but you are lost. Because you're not benefiting every minute. It's my job to bring that next generation along. It's my job to teach that next generation to do whatever I can to help them benefit from my mistakes so that they don't make the same mistakes. Then we can advance. But if I sit back and not teach them and I'm letting them go through the same mistakes that I made, we ain't going nowhere. We lost. And we'll continue to be lost.